Good afternoon, my dear students. We are here to discuss the Hindu, another day, another day's paper. I am sure that my students would have read the newspapers well. This is only a support program, the program that may help you understand the importance of reading the newspapers and taking you closer to the topics. But the real reading has to happen with your personal effort. Only that can help you improve your language and improve the connect with the world. Before we start the program, I would like to request all of you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, to our social media channels. Please like our Facebook page. All our previous videos are available in the YouTube channel, so please subscribe and go to different programs. At 3 o'clock again we shall come with another live session of the program. So we shall begin with the newspaper analysis for the time being. Good afternoon, everybody. The Hindu, dated January 12, 2021. Supreme Court intends to stay farm laws. The Supreme Court on Monday said it intended to stay the implementation of the controversial agricultural laws, the 3 number, while proposing to form an independent committee chaired by the former Chief Justice of India to amicably resolve the standoff between the farmers and the union government. 1,364 crore given to wrong beneficiaries under PMKSAN, and the centre government orders 11 million doses of Covishield from Serum Institute. These are the front pages. The first news: the Supreme Court intends to stay farm laws. The Supreme Court of India said it intended to stay the implementation of the controversial agricultural laws while proposing to form an independent committee chaired by the former Chief Justice of India to amicably resolve the standoff between farmers and union government. The Supreme Court Chief Justice said he underlined its disappointment at the centre's handling of the protest, including the string of failed talks. 7 rounds of talks are over, but the issue is still not settled. String of failed talks, states up in rebellion, suicides among protesters, and the sight of aged farmers, women and children suffering in the bitter cold and the pandemic. We don't want to make any stray observations against you, said the Supreme Court against the Government of India, but we are extremely disappointed in the way you are handling this situation. You, the centre, made a law without enough consultation, resulting in a strike. Many states are up in rebellion against you. The whole thing has been going on for months. You say you are negotiating, talking, etc., etc. Of course, listen, don't be enthused by any of these observations. These are oral observations made by the Supreme Court while hearing the petitions, but they are not verdict. They don't have the character of a verdict. They are only observations. But Supreme Court has clearly said, underscored its disappointment against the way the centre has carried out the entire process. First, they made the law without consulting. That is one of the major complaints by the farmers. During the peak of the pandemic, in the month of June, while people could not go out of their home, the law was passed through ordinances. There was no need for such a backdoor activity. Then in September, again during the pandemic times, hurriedly the Parliament passed the laws. That was done. That is one of the major complaints. There has not been any consultation between the farmer unions. So that was one of the major complaints that still remain. The second, many state governments have passed laws against the central law. They have said that we will not follow the laws in the state. In such a situation, where is the so called cooperative federalism? The term cooperative federalism means taking into consideration the states, their views, that also have to be taken into consideration, but that was not there. So the farmers were not consulted, the states were not consulted. We can say theoretically the states need not be consulted, different constituents of the population need not be consulted before a law is made, but that is the beauty of democracy. All the stakeholders must be properly consulted before the law, before a law is made, otherwise issues of this kind will happen. Now there is a clear cut bottleneck, all the roads to the Delhi are blocked, Republic Day parade is coming, an international event is coming, the whole world is going to look at India. Other bigger democracies, have started looking at India with suspicion. The way how the government is going to handle the situation is looked at by democracies. In Britain, 100 parliament members signed, more than 100 parliament members signed and given to their prime minister a letter asking him to speak to Indian prime minister to find a solution. Justin Trudeau, prime minister of Canada, has already made remarks against India, and soon other democracies will actively put pressure on Indian government. So that it has been a terrible incident that the government is becoming highly insensitive to the requests of the farmers. Farmers ask for complete repeal of law because they believe that the new laws will be against their interests. But the government says that it has got plans to double the farmers' income by 2020, and farmers are taken for a ride by the opposition parties. But the reality is that there is no effective opposition parties in India now. That is a major issue. So how can they mislead the farmers? There is no strong opposition party. That is a major problem that India faces now. We have got very strong government, but we do not have an opposition worth its name. The beauty of democracy is in having a strong opposition, not just in having a strong government. So farmers unions themselves, the farmers themselves have taken the cudgel against the government, and they are fighting for what they think are laws that are detrimental to their interests. So what Supreme Court can do on this is something to be seen. At best it can stay the government order, or stay the laws for a temporary period. Supreme Court cannot Supreme Court can check only the constitutionality of the laws. If there is no constitutional violation involved in the laws, then I doubt whether Supreme Court will ever intervene and say that sorry, these laws are repealed. It cannot do that. So that is the constitutional arrangement. Anyway, please read and closely follow the papers of days to come and how the issues evolve. Won't appear before panel, says the farmers. Supreme Court has constituted a panel of experts. Farmers said sorry, we need not speak to a panel. What we have to speak to is to the government, and the government is not listening. And what the Supreme Court is going to do? The farmers unions rejected the Supreme Court's suggestion to appoint a committee to resolve the ongoing crisis. They said the centre's attitude in the top court had made it clear that it would not agree to discuss the demand for the repeal of the 3 laws. Okay. So they will not go before the panel and speak about their concerns. Rupees 1,364 crore was given to wrong beneficiaries under PMKSAN. Under PMKSAN, rupees 6,000 will be given to farmers in 3 tranches. 1,364 crore have been wrongly made to more than 20 lakh ineligible beneficiaries and income taxpayer farmers, according to information provided by Agriculture Ministry in response to RTA request from activist Venkatesh Nayak. There are 11 crore beneficiaries registered under the scheme. Punjab tops a list of states accounting to 23% of those who wrongly received money. Maharashtra and Assam also saw a large number of payments. The Hindu had reported a number of state agriculture departments have now been tasked with recovering the money wrongly paid. PMKSAN is the centre's flagship scheme to provide income support worth Rs 6,000 a year to farming families. When it was launched just before the general elections of 2019, it was meant to cover only small and marginal farmers. That was the original intention. But later on, large farmers were included in the scheme as the government removed the land size criterion. Okay, so it was originally intended for only the marginal farmers, farmers having very small land holding, but later on the government expanded the plan, the PM-KISAN plan, and said that land holdings do not matter, even large farmers were included. Centre orders 1 million doses of Covishield. Covishield is produced by Serum Institute of Pune, manufactured by Oxford University and marketed by AstraZeneca. So, Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Monday announced that the state governments would not have to pay for vaccinating priority group of 3 crore healthcare and frontline workers, stating that the centre would bear the cost. So, 3 crore priority group, they need not be charged. So, the state government need not bear the cost of vaccines, but the centre government will bear the cost. The announcement came as the central government placed a purchase order with the Pune based Serum Institute of India SII for 11 million doses of Oxford COVID-19 vaccine Covishield at a cost of 210 rupees per dose, including GST. Official sources said the dispatch of vaccines is likely to start on Monday. HLL Healthcare Limited, a public sector undertaking, is issued the supply order on behalf of the Health Ministry. Okay, so Health Ministry also slated to sign purchase order with Bharat Biotech for its vaccine Covaxin. Meetings for this is underway. So we have got 2 vaccines manufactured locally. One is Covishield by Serum Institute, the other is Covaxin by the Biotech, which is a Bharat Biotech, which is a Hyderabad based company. Okay, so vaccination program is soon to begin. Please watch the news very closely. It is going to be a sure shot for your exams. The vaccination of India, COVID vaccination. So the next is a safety net. The pandemic has upended schooling and the effort should be to help the hardest hit, says the article, the Hindu editorial. The Union very beautiful, very important write-up. The Union Education Ministry's directive to the states to launch a mission to avoid large-scale dropouts in schools in the coming year, partly by relaxing the detention policy, should end the anxiety of millions of students about their academic prospects. Managing schooling during COVID-19 has been a challenge, with UNESCO estimating that at the end of 2020 about 320 million students were locked out of schools globally. During the pandemic, 320 million students were out of schools. South and West Asia are among the regions where students are at largest risk of not returning to schools and tertiary institutions, along with sub-Saharan Africa. Assessing the problem is key to planning for 2021. The Indian school education system remains top down in making policy, which may not advance educational reform, but the vast administrative resources can be used, says the newspaper, to quickly assess the pandemic's impact on students, teachers and schools. The pandemic year has thus far witnessed apprehensive governments keeping the majority of school instruction online and treading carefully when it comes to reopening campuses. They must prioritize the door-to-door survey. They must prioritize the door-to-door survey needed to identify students who are not in a position to return to classes when schools reopen and whose economic circumstances have changed due to pandemic's impact on their families. The silence of students should be heard. During the pandemic, the community, the single community that was silenced the most was that of students. They were asked to go indoors all of a sudden on March 25 all across India, and now their future depends on the capacity of their parents to get them back to schools, because most of them have lost their jobs. Most of the parents have lost their jobs. So the Hindu says that the state administration should be reoriented to assess the real issue the families faces, who all can go back to schools and who all cannot. So a very delicate situation that the students are facing, the society is facing. The next, bridging the Gulf. The Hindu speaks about the Gulf Cooperation Council GCC's decision to take back Qatar. You know that in 2017 Saudi Arabia, under the leadership of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, the UAE, Bahrain, Egypt imposed a blockade and severed diplomatic ties with Qatar. In 2017, Saudi Arabia, led by Saudi Arabia, Bahrain and UAE stopped the diplomatic ties, severed the diplomatic ties with Qatar. Ever since, Qatar has been living in isolation in the Gulf. But Qatar is one of the richest countries in the world, not one of the richest country in the world. These three countries also issued 13 demands for it to be lifted, which included shutting down Qatar turned TV network Al Jazeera. One of the demands was that Al Jazeera should be stopped. It was Qatar funded, closing a Turkish military base in Qatar and reducing diplomatic relations with Iran. So these were the major three things that irked Saudi Arabia, Bahrain and UAE. One, Al Jazeera should be stopped funding. Sorry, funding to Al Jazeera must be stopped, number one. Number two, Turkish military base which is operating in Qatar should be wound up. Third, they were suspectful about Qatar's relationship with Iran, that also had to be stopped. When Saudi and the Emirati airspaces were closed, Iran offered Qatar global connectivity. It was through Iran, the neighboring country, that Qatar operated their international flights. Al Jazeera is still live, and Qatar has invited more Turkish troops, bolstering its ties with Ankara, capital of Qatar, which is eager to play a bigger role in West Asia. Moreover, it played an important role in the US Taliban deal and continued to host talks between Taliban representatives of Afghan government. Listen, so none of their worries, none of the worries of Saudi Arabia, Bahrain and UAE are addressed. Instead, listen, they have increased their ties with Iran. During bad times, it was Iran that offered their airspace for Qatar Airlines to operate. Al Jazeera is still live, and to Turkish troops they have offered greater space, and Qatar is hosting the negotiations between Taliban forces and Afghanistan on behalf of United States of America. So none of the concerns that aired by the three countries were addressed, but still the Gulf countries have decided to lift the ban on Qatar. So what the Hindu says is that Saudi Arabia, now rebuilding ties with Qatar, should learn not to threaten their neighbors. Threatening their neighbors, whatsoever your power be, may not work out in the modern highly interconnected world. Panel clears Parliament project. Another technical clearance for the Central Vista project. The Union government's proposal to construct a new Parliament building was on Monday approved by the Heritage Conservation Committee, whose clearance was mandated by the Supreme Court in its January 5 judgment. Listen, the central government decides to spend around 11,000 to 12,000 crore on a project amid controversies regarding the environmental impact. Then the Supreme Court comes to play. Supreme Court makes a panel, and the panel now approves. So everything is cleared theoretically and technically for the government, but the real concerns remain. The real ecological concerns remain, and one of the major concerns, other concerns, is that do we need a project of this kind, especially when society is really pained with the impact of COVID. The people at the bottom of the pyramid do not have money. This is not the celebration time for the country, and a vaccination program is only just to start. The society has to spend a lot of money on vaccination project, and we are planning for a kind of a big celebration for the with the Central Vista project, which is to be completed by before the winter session of Parliament in 2022. So technical clearance are obtained. Technical clearances are only technical clearances. The real issues remain. Please read. Memorial on campus will be built again, Jaffna University. Jaffna is in the northeastern part of Sri Lanka, closer to India geographically. Jaffna is inhabited mostly by Tamilians. There was a war going on for many years between Tamil rebels and the Sri Lankan forces, and finally it was in the 2009-10 times that Sri Lankan army was finally able to stop the war, end the war forcefully by capturing LTT leader, Tamil leader, LTT leader Velupillai Prabhakaran, and they killed him. The issues are not yet completely resolved. There are Tamil resentments continuing. In Jaffna University, the administration bulldozed a structure erected in memory of war victims. Memory of war victims was bulldozed by this administration under the orders of authorities. Under the orders of authorities, they have decided to, they have bulldozed, not decided to, they bulldozed the structure erected in memory of war victims. Again, instead of healing the rift between Tamilians and the major population Sinhalas, the government of Sri Lanka is toying with the ideas of removing all the vestiges of warriors. War against Sri Lankan official forces by Tamil rebels is a part of history, and history cannot be wiped off. So this is a major error that governments in power are taking more often. So after this becoming a big issue, I got messages from authorities asking me to take steps, says the Vice Chancellor of the university. The removal of the structure dedicated to victims of final phase of civil war triggered spontaneous students' protests, drawing national and international attention. Many, including other national student bodies, slammed the move that they said curbed Tamil's right to remember their loved ones. So memorials can be destructed, but memories cannot. This is one major lesson that governments in power have to keep in mind. Stretched valuations threaten stability, says the Governor of Reserve Bank of India, Shaktikanta Das. Listen, we are going through a very critical phase of our economic activities and growth. For getting greater loans, revaluation of existing assets may be done, which may effectively destroy the economy. So Reserve Bank of India's governor says growing disconnect between exuberant equity markets and real economic activity. Listen, this was what happened in 1992 when the Harshad Mehta scam took place. Indian economy was in doldrums. Agriculture sector was doing bad. Core sectors of the economy were doing bad. Banks were, all other sectors of the economies were doing bad, but capital market was booming. That is not possible. Now look at what is happening. The real economy is in doldrums, but the capital market is booming, and there is a clear-cut mismatch, meaning assets, capital market assets are wrongly overvalued, and that is going to be, any bubble will burst. Keep in mind, any bubble at some point of time will burst. Gold prices are going up, but market corrections will soon happen and it will touch down. So when before we make big investments in either stocks or in gold, we have to think twice or thrice, because any bubble will burst on one day. Disconnect between certain segments of financial markets and the real economy has been accentuating in recent times. Look, every sector of the economy is going from bad to worse thanks to pandemic. Nobody can be criticized. But look, the stock market is going up, meaning people are chasing stock market, money is chasing stock market. Against higher demand, prices are booming. So smaller players may not know, while and when big players will start profit booking, the stock prices may slash and corrections may take place. Anyway, please read. These are the certain brief ideas regarding the topic. US House most likely to consider impeaching Trump this week. President Trump has got only a few days, a week plus days to continue in the office of White House. On January 20, the inauguration of the new president will take place, but the nation has a chance to force an impeachment for constitutional violation against the president. President Trump has his actions have demeaned the biggest democracy in the world, so he can be removed on grounds of incapacitation, says the authorities. This comes days after Trump supports attacked Capitol building. If Pence does not invoke the statute, the House will consider impeaching Mr. Trump, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said in a letter to fellow House Democrats on Sunday evening US time. So we have to wait and see whether the US congressmen will force an impeachment on US president. There are only two presidents who were impeached. It was Richard Nixon and President Clinton, but if impeachment motion is made, then Donald Trump will be only the third US president to be impeached. So we have to wait and see closely what is evolving. Thank you very much for watching the program. I hope it has given you certain ideas on what is happening in the newspaper. Tomorrow too we shall have the same program. At 3 o'clock we shall meet again with another program on either math, QA or reasoning. Watch and try to improve. and the next class of course I shall include general awareness questions also from the papers. Thank you very much. Goodbye.